She joined the Crescent Cove staff in 2022 as the Engagement and Communications Manager after a decade of volunteering. Before Crescent Cove was a physical space, it was an idea that needed funding and support, and Jenny was instrumental in building both of these with a team of passionate volunteers. That's not coming. Well, I'm not going to start over. You all heard it, right? I hope I'm speaking loud enough. Jenny has many years of experience, first helping nonprofits raise money via direct mail, then switching to working at nonprofits in fundraising roles. She worked at Gillette Children in St. Paul, then the Minneapolis Heart Institute Foundation. She then opened a consulting business for a time, helping small to medium-sized nonprofits with their fundraising strategy, copywriting, data, and audience needs before returning to Crescent Cove. Jenny resides in the southern suburbs of the Twin Cities with her husband, youngest daughter, and their pit bull rescue. Name, no, just Buzz a Rescue. She has a picture.
What's the name
okay.
though? Beauty.
Beauty, that's right. In the summer, you can find her skating around the lakes, training for her next inline skating marathon. Please welcome our speaker, Jenny.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna have to edit that down. That's like way too much on our website. Thank you all so much. So Peggy heard me speak at the Optimist Club meeting in Northeast Minneapolis, I think it was, a while ago, sometime this summer, I think. It was warm, and now it's cool, and we're all just so happy to have cool weather. So I'm here to tell you guys about Crescent Cove because it is such a special place in my heart. It is so special that I had opened my own consulting practice. I was working for myself remotely whenever I wanted to, out of my house, out of coffee shops, and I did that for 4 years. And when they had an opening to be, do I do this?
Yes.
Okay, happy to. I'm gonna pull it out though. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When Crescent Cove then posted a position for the communications and engagement manager, I had to close my business and take that job because my passion is with Crescent Cove and I'm so happy to be there. And if I could retitle myself, I would say that I'm the official storyteller of Crescent Cove. That is what I love to do most. Our families are absolutely incredible. They lead the most beautiful lives, and it is my joy to share that with people, to get people to help support our home. So what is Crescent Cove? So we are the only children's respite and hospice home in Minnesota. There are only 4 of us in existence in the Twin Cities. We are the dream of Katie Lindenfelser, who is a trained music therapist, and she saw the situation happen many times at Children's in Minneapolis and other places where parents were told that there were no other options for their child and that the family should prepare for end of life for them. And in many cases, the parents were distraught and asking, where can we go? Is there a place we can go? The hospital's not the best place to be for end of life care. It's very different. The hospitals are set up to be curative. They're there to get you better, get you out. They're not there to help provide the comfort and care that's needed for end of life. And then if told that their other option was to go home, they had often other children in the home. And they didn't want their siblings to be a part of that journey because they didn't know what that journey was going to hold for them. So Katie saw this happen over and over, and then as part of her training, she got to go to Australia for her master's degree to become a fully certified music therapist, and there she got to work at a children's hospice home. And there she saw the joy and the light that can exist in this kind of setting. And she called her then boyfriend and said, we got to do this. And he's like, yeah, why did you have to go to Australia anyways? And she's like, because there are none here. And they committed to building the first children's hospice home. When they got married, they asked people to, instead of getting them wedding gifts, make donations to what would become the Crescent Cove Fund to help support our home. So we incorporated in 2010. It took 8 years of advocating, going to the state capitol like you just did, congratulations, telling people about the need, gathering up the families who could have used Crescent Cove in times of need and we just didn't exist, and letting people know that we needed to have this home built. And 8 years later, that is exactly what we did. So we opened our doors for the first time in 2018. So this is our mission, to provide care and support to children with shortened life expectancies and to their families who love them. We are on Twin Lake in Brooklyn Center. We're on the very northern part of the lake. The lake is really long and narrow. It's actually the same lake that if you take Highway 100 north and you pass right by France Avenue, you go over a lake. That's the same lake. It's really long. It's very interesting. But yeah, so we are right on the lake. We have volunteers on the lake who actually provide pontoon rides to the kiddos, which is just so amazing and special. As I mentioned, we're one of only 4 in the United States, and we're the only one in the Midwest. George Mark and Ryan House are the 2 first children's hospice homes. Those were both started by bereaved parents after their child had passed away. And then Brady's Place is very similar. That just opened in Salt Lake City at the end of 2023, so they're pretty new. We've been in existence for 7 years now, going on 8, and we're happy to continue to be here serving these families. So who do we serve? What do we mean when we say kids with shortened life expectancies? These are primarily children who have multiple diagnoses, multiple disabilities, and there's a clinical definition by which clinicians basically say they may make it to adulthood, but if they do, they probably won't make it to a ripe old age, and there is a likelihood that they won't make it into adulthood. Those are the children that we serve. We serve them in 2 different ways. We provide respite care. So respite care is, for most of these kids, because they have complex conditions, one of their parents has become their full-time caregiver. They have given up a career, they've given up a job, given up income to stay at home and be their child's provider. That is a 24/7 proposition with very, very little room for a rest or for break. We have some families that their child lives in an ICU-like setting in their home and are being cared for by a parent. It is exhausting, and we hear this a lot from our families about how exhausting it is. They can then schedule time to come to Crescent Cove for respite care. We work with their entire care team to get all of the orders from all their physicians, of which there are many, all of their therapies, all their medications. We take over all their medical care, but then we also do stuff like pontoon rides on the lake, pet therapy with a bunny, because we actually have therapy bunnies that come to Crescent Cove, and that's really awesome. And playing games and reading and having a great time. These kids get so much interaction and so much involvement. When we plan a respite stay for them, it isn't just about, okay, they need their nutritional thing at this time and they're getting this therapy at this time. It's also like, what time is music therapy? Do they like arts and crafts? How much? 2 hours of arts and crafts? 3 hours of arts and crafts? We plan all of their activities throughout the whole day. A lot of the kids call it Camp Cove because they love, love, love to come. They have so much fun. It's so engaging for them. And their parents then can go away, take a break from providing all of that hour-long care. Often, most of our families take a vacation with their other children in their home. And that is really precious time, too, that they want to spend with their other children. So respite care is probably the majority of the care that we provide to families. The other kind of care we provide is end-of-life care. So because these children have shortened life expectancies, we often do get the call for children that we cared for in respite care stating that they are now actively dying. And can they come to Crescent Cove for their final days? When that happens, it becomes an all-hands-on-deck situation. All the other things are deprioritized so we can prioritize the end-of-life care for this child and for this family. So the parents will stay at our home. They stay in our parent suite the entire time that the child is there. We have nurses who are there 24/7 providing all of the medical care to the child. We also have so many volunteers who come out of the woodwork to provide meals for them, to provide support for them. We'll have masseuses who will come in and give massage therapy to the parents at different times and give them an opportunity to just rest and relax, and also to value the time that they spend with their child and not be looking for, was that a labored breathing? What does that look like? So many times these parents, if their child is on hospice care and is sent home, they have a hospice nurse who comes and spends 1 hour a day there and assesses a child and tells the parents, here's what you should look for next. Here are the next changes you might see. Here's what I anticipate will happen next. And they're back in caregiver mode for 23 hours out of the day. When they come to Crescent Cove with that child, they are in parent mode. They get to just spend precious time with that child while we take care of all of the care. And because our nurses do this with child after child, they know what to look for. They know how to help these parents through every stage of the process and then after. So I want to tell you about one kid who was served by Crescent Cove for end of life stay. I tell this story because one, he's an amazing, amazing young man. His name is Dylan. He's the one in the bed. Was 20 years old, and he chose Crescent Cove himself. And that's what I find so amazing about this young man. He actually, turns out later they discovered he had a syndrome called Dicer syndrome, which causes tumors to just randomly start growing, usually on internal organs. So when he was 3, he had what they thought was just a malformed kidney, and they removed his kidney. And then he had a different kind of cancer come back at 7, and then something else came back at 9, and it just kept recurring. And it wasn't until he was 18 that they were doing genetic testing and realized that he had this syndrome that was going to cause cancer his whole life. At that point, it had recurred on his only remaining kidney, and dialysis had stopped working for him. And he had said, I think I'm done. I think I've had enough, and I don't choose to go through any more treatment or do anything more. He was in a hospital in southwest Minnesota, in Marshall, and he's sitting at the bed, and he got the news that he wasn't tolerating dialysis well anymore, and his one kidney was shutting down, and things weren't looking good. And he said, all right, what are my options? And they said, well, we're not quite sure. And he Googled children's hospice homes, and Crescent Cove came up. So he chose to come to our home himself. And his parents were divorced, and his dad was remarried. And so he liked to say that Crescent Cove was the neutral place where all 3 sides of his family could come together. So this picture is from a potluck that he requested we have. On a Friday night, he said, I would like a potluck, and he literally gave every member of his family an assignment. I want this dip from my grandma, I want that dessert that my aunt makes, I want these cookies that my cousin makes. He said, all my favorite foods from all my family. It was the weirdest potluck you've ever had. But it was so meaningful to him, and it was so meaningful to the family members who wanted to make all of this. So this is only a fraction of it, but we had 38 people in our home that night that we hosted for this, and it was so special to have them all together. These 2 dogs are his childhood dogs. They were with him. There's actually pictures behind. You see we have the love memories and other things it says back there. There are pictures up there of him with those dogs when he was just 9 years old. And here they were seeing him through the end of life, which is not usually how it goes with dogs. So he was there for 14 days, and after 14 days of making memories, spending time with all of his family, his bed was usually in the living room. And even if he grew weaker, and as he grew weaker, he couldn't perhaps participate in as many things, but he loved being there when all of his cousins are playing a card game together or telling jokes about stupid stuff they did when they were kids. And he just savored all of that time with his family. And he quietly passed one evening after everybody had left except for his parents. They were the ones who were still there. And it was so beautiful to be able to serve this family. It was really special. And 2 of his cousins say that some of their favorite memories of him happened at Crescent Cove because they were very intentional. They knew these moments are precious, and they're going to be short, and we're going to savor them. So it was just a gift to be able to serve this family. So imagine, that family's journey, and it happens over and over. So we provided 734 nights of both respite and end-of-life care in 2024. We're around that again this year. We're probably going to end up at about 750 nights of care that we provide to families. We're always welcoming new families to our fold. Every year, around 600 children are born in the state of Minnesota alone with complications that could have them eligible for our care. That's 600 babies every year. The demand is absolutely overwhelming. We hear from our families right now, the number 1 criticism that they have of our home is that they can't get on our schedule. Every single month, between 11 and 30 families tried to schedule respite care with us because they need a break, and we weren't able to accommodate them. We are a 5-bedroom home, and we do our best to get as many kids in there as we can. Some of them are so acute and need so many cares that some of the children, when they come to Crescent Cove, they are a one-to-one nursing model. Because we only have 2 nurses on any given shift, that means that the other nurse has to care for the other kids in the home. So sometimes we can only have 3 kids, but we're still technically at capacity because we only have 2 nurses on shift. And as you know, we're in a nursing shortage, not just statewide, but nationwide, and actually globally, there's a nursing shortage because of the pandemic and what happened after that. So it is a real challenge for us to recruit nurses and to get them to come to Crescent Cove. And we cannot afford to pay what they pay for bedside care in hospitals. So people work there because their hearts are there. Just to give you an idea of, I get asked a lot, where do people come from? And the answer is all over Minnesota, and 9% come from outside of the state. We serve families from Wisconsin, Iowa, the Dakotas. We actually have one family that used to fly here from North Carolina because we were the closest children's hospice home or respite home for them. Now their son's condition is complex enough that he can no longer fly, but they would still be coming here if he were able to tolerate the travel. And then just we serve people of every walk of life, every ethnicity, every religious background. Our care is open to people, no matter who they are. And then children served by age, and we do everything. Age 0 through 21 is who we serve. Once a child reaches 22, they are no longer qualified for our care, and we have a graduation ceremony for them. We call them our graduate, and we have them graduate from our care. It's actually a really special ceremony that we do with them, but it's also really bittersweet, especially for the parents, because they know that a place like Crescent Cove doesn't exist once you hit adult services. So it's challenging for them, but it's also very sweet, and they're always invited to come back for any of the family events we have or other things that we do for those families. This little girl on the left is so adorable, and oh my God, I just blanked on her name. She was our kid we had a partnership with the A to Z Creamery in Hopkins this summer. They created a blend, Elsie, her name's Elsie, and it was called Elsie's Pint. They created an ice cream blend, and a portion of proceeds of the sale of that ice cream came to Crescent Cove. And she is just a dear, and she loves tooling around her house with this little car, and she puts her Gonzo and all of her other Muppets on the back, and she loves Gonzo. And it's so much fun to have this be the place where I work, because not only do I do like meaningful work, but I get to see they're just kids. They just want to be kids, and it's really special to see all the ways that they can play and interact in our house. So some of the things that makes Crescent Cove special, of course, because we're founded by a music therapist. Music therapy is critical. We do it several times a week. We'll have music therapy, and we always have toys around and ways for kids to explore music and other things. Arts and crafts. I love this little guy on the left is Toby. I just love it. We made a little rainbow out of his feet. We do a lot of craft projects that are like also memory making at the same time, because then the parents have a piece of art that has his footprint on it, his handprint on it, something like that. So you capture him at that moment in time. And then of course we have pet therapy, lots and lots of labs and Goldens coming on our house. We do also have a dachshund who is a therapy dog. That's been super fun to have. We usually have to lift him up to have to spend time with the kids, but yeah, lots of really special moments. And our goal, if you were to ever walk into our house, these are the feelings, the emotions that we wanted people to feel when you first walk into our house. Whether it's, and we call it a house, it's not a facility. It feels like a home. We want them to feel assured, celebrated, and embraced. We just had a family that I was interviewing for a story I was doing, and she said, when Nash is at Crescent Cove, he is just where he needs to be, and that place is made just for him. Mm-hmm. Nothing feels like an obstacle. Nothing feels like it's out of his reach. All of it is possible for him. And there's so many other places in the world where that doesn't feel like it's made for him, and Crescent Cove is. These are the people who make our care possible, our nurses, our CNAs. We now have another half-time social worker who we've added to our roster. And the 2 newest positions we have are an experience coordinator and a food manager, and that might sound silly that they provide care, but I can tell you what it was like before we had the food manager, when our nursing assistants would be like, okay, I have to feed this child in half an hour, and here's his dietary needs, and here's what he cannot have, and I have to puree it to put it into his feeding tube, and and she's whipping through the cupboards as fast as she can, and she finds like macaroni and cheese and whatever, and it's just not nutritional. And it's not what they need calorically or nutritionally. So we have a food manager now who plans a food plan for every child who comes to our home. So before they even walk in, we usually have a few meals already ready-made for them. And all the nursing team has to do is heat it up, serve it, do whatever they have to do to get that child. And it's absolutely made a huge difference in how many children that, they can care for. The most amazing thing about our home, outside of the fact that we are the first and only respite and hospice home for kids, families access our services at zero cost to them. They pay nothing out of pocket. As you can imagine, these families already have so many medical bills, so many things that they're paying for, so many other challenges in life. And honestly, many of the caregivers just wouldn't do this for themselves. They're like, oh, I get a break from caring for my kid? That's okay. I don't need that as much as my child needs this. You know, they don't put themselves first. So it's one way that we make sure, you know, you actually do need this break. You do need to take time for yourself and to do these things. So there is no cost to them. This is made possible because we live in the incredible state of Minnesota, which is so generous. And we have so many incredible people who think of others and think of other families and want to do good for them. So this is how our funding model happened in 2024. 77% of the revenues that covered our care expenses was donations. And we're so incredibly grateful to our community that makes this happen. So I have a few stories I could go through. And I'm just thinking if we have questions or time, I have 3 kids of stories that I could share. Does anybody have any questions or anything you want me to address? Yeah.
How does this compare to Ronald McDonald House? What is,
Sure.
maybe I don't understand either
Yeah, no,
one.
great question. So great question. Ronald McDonald House, Ronald McDonald House partners with hospitals. So what happens is when a child is in the hospital receiving care, their family can stay at the Ronald McDonald House at no cost to them, so that they can be near their kid and can go see them every day at the hospital, but it doesn't provide care directly to the child.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have 18 RNs. Do they cycle through and have other jobs? Do they come in here for just?
That's a good question. Most of our RNs, I have to think about this. I don't know that it's most. We have a good number who are full-time, so they're full-time RNs with Crescent Cove. We have a good number who are part-time, but they're just part-time because they don't want to be full-time. And some have other positions elsewhere, but I think most of our nurses actually just nurse at Crescent Cove.
So 3 shifts a day up to?
It's actually 2 shifts. It's 12-hour shifts.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's 7 to 7s is what they work. Yeah.
So there are 4 in existence in the nation.
Yes.
Do you all talk to each other?
Yes.
And do you know if there are other possible locations that are popping up?
Yep. Yeah. Great question. And just for comparison, we are modeled on children's hospice homes that are in the UK. There are 54 in the UK. Just to get a sense of the care that we're not doing for children here in this country. If we were to provide that kind of care per population, we would need to have 166 children's hospice homes in the United States to equal that for them. So we are part of a coalition called, there's so many different names. I think it's a Children's Respite Homes of America Association. The 4 existing homes, we talk every month. We have a standing call every month with a different agenda on, what it might be. We all say, what do we want to talk about next month? We talk about those things. There are currently 26 what we call emerging homes. So those are communities that are working to build children's respite and hospice homes in their various states. We cannot meet the need of Minnesota alone, much less the other states whose families are finding us. The closest one actually to us is so beautiful and awesome. It's actually a family that was served by Crescent Cove for end-of-life care for their son Mason. He was 9 and he passed away from, it was a condition kind of similar to the one I was telling you about where it just caused tumors top to bottom on him. And so he came to Crescent Cove for end-of-life care. And after some time had passed afterwards, his mom was thinking, why did we have to drive 5 hours away to Minnesota to receive this kind of care? So she started organizing a place in Iowa. It's called Mason's Lighthouse, meaning house of light, not like a lighthouse for ships. And she just got passed this past fall something called Mason's Law, and it is a law that allows facilities like theirs to be reimbursed for pediatric palliative care. That's one of our challenges in this state is we first had to write a law that says we have the right to exist, because when Katie went to open our home, there was no licensure that covered the care we wanted to provide. So she had to go and testify in front of various committees at the state capitol to say, we want to be a children's pediatric hospice home. And at the time, the licensure was written that only adult hospice care could be provided. So a lot of barriers for all of these emerging organizations in all of the states. Yes.
With so much demand for these, how do you choose the families
Oh,
to come?
I can't even begin. It is so difficult. The biggest challenge for our families is trying to assess the needs of each child with the staffing that we have available to care for them. I liken it to like a game of Tetris, of we're trying to fit the puzzle pieces in of the children with specific needs to a specific timeline. So we'll have the families put in all the requests for us, and the first thing we look at is when's the last time this child was here for a respite stay? And if they were able to squeeze in the last month or 90 days, they might get tabled, because there are other families who, it's October and they haven't even been in once yet. So there's a whole parameter of ways that our care coordinator works to try to schedule and make it as equitable as possible. It's hard. It's hard. And we are looking at a second home at some point in the next few years. We know it's still a drop in the bucket to what the need is, but I liken it to that story of the starfish, where all the starfish are, they're all washed up on the shore and you're throwing them back all these starfish, and it's like, well, I might not get to all of them, but it mattered to that one that I threw them back in, so, yeah.
What is the biggest barrier to growth? For your house than anything else?
Yeah. The two biggest barriers, one is nursing care. Attracting and retaining nurses. Retaining them actually hasn't been a problem. So a lot of our nurses, once they make it through the orientation process, they realize that they love it here and this is what they want to do. We have had some nurses who come, they think they want to do this, and then they're like, this is way harder than I thought, or I don't have the emotional fortitude for this. Because you get to know these families really well through respite cares, and then you eventually say goodbye to them. So access to nursing care is one, and to be honest, the other one is funding. The fact that we're so reliant on donations is honestly a little frightening to me, because should those go away, we have to start looking at cutting care, and that's, we're very, very frugal. We don't have much fat in our budget. I like to tell people about the first week that I started. We have a weekly newsletter goes out, and the first week that started, our nursing director had, somebody had said, oh, here's the supplies we need briefs, and we need these things, and we need more pens. And she wrote in the newsletter, she said, I just got a purchase request for pens. We bought 100 pens 2 months ago. Find them. So we're very, very frugal, and just make sure before we absolutely have to buy something that we have to buy it and so forth. So, sorry, you had another question.
So I've worked in systematic growth research for years, and so very familiar with their organizing body, because they're principally all donation based, all of the funding for that research. Is there any sort of like a more national body around this, or national board that would help run gala events, which tend to attract a lot of people who want to donate money, and we say for kids, it's like
right. The only one that really exists so far is at Children's Respite Homes of America, of which we are a founding member of that. They're still kind of getting their feet under them, but I don't know of other ones that are in existence.
Probably one last question, but so what can we do as individuals and as a club to help you? Because I have pens, I could bring you some.
I love it.
I mean, there's things that we have that probably could be used, or.
Thank you. I love it. I'm like, here, I'll give you pens. That's awesome. We do have a wish list that's on our website, so you can check that to see. And certainly this time of year, as we get closer to holidays, it has more things on it. So check out our wish list. And to be honest, just keep spreading the word. It's really hard to raise money to get fundraising for this when people don't know who you are. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, and so I appreciate the invitation from Peggy to be here to share the news, because the more people know that we exist and that there is such an overwhelming need for our services, the easier the door is open for us to be able to talk to others to get more support.
Are you on social media?
We are, yes,
Okay.
we're on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Like, comment, share,
Yeah.
tag, right? Right?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.